us cooperate for the union. Let us cooperate for our land. Let us resolve to fight together. See we do it right together. Can we do it? Yes, we can.
Each man must do his bit.
Hi and welcome to another edition of Public Interest. I'm Gabriela Patram. We're so happy that you can join us. With me is former President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana and leader of the People's National Congress Reform, Mr. David Granger. Sir, welcome again and thank you that you can join us.
It's good to be here, but
Sir, I would like us to continue our discussions this week on the public sector and public servants. There continue to be a purge of public servants in the public sector. Over the last 2 weeks or so, the media has been filled with reports again of public servants being dismissed, being served with their dismissal letters, having letters or receiving letters that their service is going to come to an end, and so forth. On that note, the PPP administration would have purged approximately 1,700 persons from the public sector, claiming that they were political sycophants and doing political work. Sir, what evidence is there of that?
well, that's a difficult question to answer because there's no evidence. What we know is that there have been dismissals. In my opinion, there's a deep state. What you are seeing is nothing arbitrary or whimsical. The PPP entered office on the 2nd of August with a plan, a program to take full control of the state. And I call it, behind the McCoys and these people, there is a deep state which is actually driving a very dangerous agenda. And the removal of these 1,350 public servants, 1,750 public servants, or whatever number it is a dangerous trend because it is creating the conditions for the replacement of trained and efficient professional public servants with party hacks who carrying out a completely different mission in running this country. So what we're seeing is not the application of professional standards to run governments or run the government in the way it should be run for the benefit of all the people. But you will see a pattern of removing the professionals and bringing political appointees, and these people are going to run the country in a completely different direction. Now, if you wanted evidence, call the persons who you're dismissing and say, you've stolen money, and take them before the courts, or you were seen misbehaving, or we have these reports. Allow them to defend themselves, but this has not happened. Because the PPP has no evidence, the PPP doesn't need evidence. The PPP was going to dismiss them anyway. And that is what we see happening. There was some indication that there would be some tribunal, there would be some investigation, that persons who felt themselves wrong would be able to appeal, but that has not happened. The PPP is in office for nearly 300 days, and they have made no attempt to address the concerns of people who've been wrongfully dismissed. I don't think there will ever be any tribunal. They don't need evidence, and the PPP is doing exactly what they did in 1992, and when they removed a lot of public servants. This is the PPP standard modus operandi. Once they get into government, they control everything. The regions, the neighborhoods, the ministries, the agencies, the commissions, and the deep state is working now. For example, They don't need an environmental protection agency to advise them on the mangroves. You know, they only remove the mangroves anyway. They don't need an EPA, so they get rid of the EPA. That's the PPA style, you know. They know everything, you know. They know everything but the sugar factory. They know everything but fiber optic cable, and they know everything but mangroves. So what we're seeing is the deep state at work. Things will get worse in this country.
You strongly believe so? You strongly believe so?
As long as there's the PPP, you're going to get a two-state system. There's the official state with all of the commissions and corporations, and there's the deep state, which is corrupting public administration in this country.
So you actually provided some background also into my next question, because on May 29th, like you mentioned, it's going to be 300 days since
That's tomorrow.
That's tomorrow, correct. 300 days since they have been in office, and you would have already mentioned the Environmental Protection Agency.
Yes.
We also have the State Assets Recovery Agency, the National Data Management Authority, the Guyana Water Incorporated, the Guyana Oil Company, and other entities where public servants have been purged. These entities, public servants have been purged from. So what is the social, political, and economic impact of the PPP's administration policy towards public sector workers?
Well, most visible and most immediate is the social impact,
Yes.
the impact that these dismissals have on households.
Yes.
It is well known in Guyanese sociology that many families are, you know, headed by a single parent. And once that single parent is dismissed, you know, there is
They're on the
going to be-
breadline, as we say.
yes, there are going to be problems for the children, and children have been out of school for over a year.
Yeah.
So this is going to cause a very serious problem at the household level. Socially, many of the persons who had gone into the public sector had a reasonable expectation of security of tenure, and many of them are not ready. They haven't been trained or equipped to do any other job but what they were doing in the public service or in the public sector. So we have a situation in which there is already high unemployment. You are going to add retrenchment of workers who felt reasonably secure onto that. So there's going to be a bigger social problem. At the political level, it is quite evident that from what certain PPP spokesmen have said, that they perceive all of these people to be doing political work. It's impossible for all of those people to be doing political work. You know, there needs to be some investigation. There needs to be some tribunal, but there will be no such tribunal. And even people who were neutral, people who were not politically partisan, who have been dismissed, will now become intensely political because they felt that they have been treated, they were treated unjustly. So the political fallout is going to be very bad for the PPP. They are going to suffer when we go back to the polls because of their own behavior. Economically, the dismissals do not represent a saving. It means that certain agencies are being less efficiently run, and this, you know, is starting to become evident. We are now in the middle of a countrywide flood, and the planning is very poor. It is clear that the public service, which should have been delivering services to people in all 10 regions, relief services, support services, communication services, these things are not happening because the public service has been degutted. So at every level, administrative, household, political, economic, we are suffering from what the PPP did over the last 300 days. And that is the cost, that is the impact that we all have to pay, and we will have to bear because the PPP's attitude to its workers. The workers are the sinews of government. You can't run a government without workers, at all levels, not only managerial workers, but when you look at the list of people who have been dismissed by the PPP over the last 300 days, they've even gone after drivers, office assistants, security people. It is really a massacre. It is an administrative massacre, and it is having an impact on the way this country is being managed. And we can see traces of mismanagement. We can see the cracks in public administration, and the cracks are going to get wider once the PPP continues on this path.
Sir, on that same note, in their manifesto during their elections campaign, and they're still holding to it, they would have promised to create 50,000 jobs. And but for the most recent labor force survey, it states that the unemployment has risen to 15.6%. Sir, on the same note with the political, the social and economic, what impact has the purging of the public servants had on labor relations and social cohesion in this country?
The impact is still to be felt, and it is becoming quite evident, as you saw over the last 3 months or so. Many of the unions in the public sector have become very restive at the level of the Guyana Public Service Union, at the level of the GLU, at the level of NASI, to some extent, even GAWU, which is the main sugar union. They've become very restive and very restless. Labor relations will suffer because our coalition had aimed at a form of social contract. We all know that we are approaching a period of increased revenue from petroleum. This is the time to sit with the labor unions, to sit with civil society, to sit with the opposition, and decide how will this expected bonanza be used for the common good, for the good of all people, for the public good. And if at this stage you alienate the labor unions, who are you going to speak with? Unless you intend to be more authoritarian, more dictatorial. This is the time to hammer out a social contract so that the unions can know what they can look forward to, over the next decade, for example. The public servants could know what they could look forward to. The nurses in the public health system could know what they could look forward to. But right now, there's a lot of uncertainty because of this concept of the deep state. How is this PPP administration planning to actually make the people of Guyana beneficiaries of this petroleum bonanza? There's no planning, there's no discussion. You start off by knocking off the workers. So who are you going to use the oil well for, if not the people of Guyana? And these are some aspects of the PPP's program that we have to examine very carefully. The labor unions are important, and not just the sugar union, but all of the unions. And the PPP needs to aim at the social contract so that over the next 10 years, the workers, civil society, all members of society know what to look forward to when petroleum revenues start to come into this country. But the PPP has started on the wrong foot by alienating the workers. And you can't go around this country with hampers believing that you're going to solve problems. Hampers don't solve floods. Hampers don't solve unemployment. We need to have a different approach to handling the affairs of the working people in this country.
And sir, they have been also targeting commissions such as the Police Service Commission. I also have the Elections Commission here, the Guyana Forestry Commission, and the Guyana Lands and Surveys Commission. I'm sure that you're aware too, the chairman of the Police Commission was recently charged and brought before the courts. And also the other commissions received letters from the Prime Minister asking them to justify why they should remain on the commission. Why is that, and what is this administration's policy towards these commissions?
The commissions are there for a good reason. Some have rights enshrined in the Constitution, have duties and responsibilities. They are responsible for oversight. And when you remove oversight from these particular areas, for example, the police force is one of the largest employers of labor outside of the Sugar Union. And the Police Service Commission was set up there for a reason. And there is a very detailed process for selecting the chairman of the Police Service Commission.
Okay.
And right now, several police officers are in the courts.
Yes.
Once you start to tinker and tamper with the Police Service Commission, public trust is going to drain away. People will say to themselves, what really is happening when the chairman of the Police Service Commission, an honorable position, when the chairman is being treated in this way. And it seems that the people who have brought about these charges are on a fishing expedition. They have no evidence. They are just seeking to besmirch the reputation of these persons who themselves are former police officers who have served with distinction. Once you start attacking the commissions, you are undermining trust, the confidence which the public has in the ability of these organizations to exercise oversight and to regulate the forces or the organizations over which they have that oversight. Again, you're looking at some hidden agenda. You're looking at the deep state. You're looking at people who do not want to see efficient regulatory agencies and institutions in place. And it is a disgrace to treat the Police Service Commission in that way, and even the other commissions, even Forestry Commission, the way they treated the issue of the mangrove, because all of us have grown up knowing that the mangroves protect the coastline. The coastline is fragile, in some areas like at Danzig in East Demerara, it's like biscuit. I mean, the ocean is invading several areas. When you start pulling away mangroves, you need an agency, whether it's the Guyana Forestry Commission or any other regulatory body, to advise government and prevent the destruction of features which are there to protect the whole society. This society is not made for a few businessmen. This society is made for all of us and for generations to come. Yeah. And we will pay the price for this type of arbitrariness which is being pushed by this deep state in Guyana at present.
Sir, if we could talk a little bit the impact that this purging is going to have on young people. I'm coming back to the closure of the Bertram Collins College of the Public Service, suspended enrollment at the Charles Roser School of Nursing. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, sir. Yes. The Guyana Youth Corps and the HAZE program. What do you, sir, expect will be the impact of these actions on young people, and the kind of changes make the training of persons for the public service efficient? Mind you, I was reading that one minister said that the strategy or the purging of the public service is to get the best out of the public service, but I would have been reading the aims and goals and objectives of the Bertram College, and it was to train young people to give their best when they come into the public service.
Yes, Gabriela, I don't think that the PPP is difficult to understand or explain. I mean, their behavior is quite brazen, and you shut down a college and say you shut down the college to improve efficiency. You shut down the HEYS, the Hinterland Youth Program, and save money. I mean, it is serving a purpose, and young people will lose if you shut down the HEYS, the Hinterland Employment Youth Service. Similarly, the Guyana Youth Corps. The Guyana Youth Corps is there for training people. It isn't a political organization. It is there to train young people. The Charles Rosa Nursing School this is not a pensioners association. These are all young people's organizations. The nurses are young trainees,
Yeah.
and this country is short by about 3,000 to 5,000 nurses. You know, you have to be brain dead to shut down a nurse training school in the middle of a pandemic. This is another aspect of Modi operandi, you know. It is not something that you expected in an intelligent government. And the Patram College, the reason why that college was established is to train young public servants to manage these 10 regions. Now, the PPP never really had great love for the hinterland. You know, the party, you know, had strong roots on the coastline. But when you create 4 towns at Mabroom, Bartica, Madia, and Lethem, these towns need public servants, need administrators, people who will go out into the communities and help to extend the public services, public utilities, government services. Magistrates, courts are being opened in outlying areas. You know, public utilities such as water, telephone, light are being extended. And you need a large corps of trained public servants. If you shut down the training college for public servants, it means, one, that public servants will be untrained, or you are not interested in recruiting more public servants to run this country more efficiently. It is not a matter of a big government or a small government. The direction that the PPP is heading in shutting down these 4 colleges and schools concerned with the training of young people will be counterproductive. You're going to have poorly trained public servants, you're going to have fewer nurses, you're going to have young people in the hinterland who have not got the benefit of the entrepreneurial training and opportunities. You will see in short order, you will see a deterioration in the delivery of public services. This is hurting young people, you know, it is hurting young people, it will hurt the whole country, because those young persons are meant to occupy places in the administrative system, the nursing system. Some are meant to be independent, self-employed people in the HEYS. So we are heading down the wrong road with the PPP's attitude to these institutions. They are not political institutions. Nobody can say that the Charles Rosa Nursing School is political. Nobody can say that the Bertram Collins College is political. Nobody can say the HEYS is political. Nobody can say the Guyana Youth Corps is political. You're teaching people, young people out of school, to use their hands, to use their brains, to use their mind to become more entrepreneurial. What is wrong with that? You know, but the PPP has no use. They have already decided what they're going to do with this country, who is going to get what, you know, and I believe people will suffer at the altar of profit making. And they don't see these institutions as being profitable. Who profits when HEYS is established? Hinterland youth? Who profits when there are more nurses countrywide? You know, who profits when they better train civil servants? People are not interested in these things. PPP has an agenda, and that is the deep state agenda that is going to derail normal public administration in this country. And I'm very concerned that when oil revenues start to flow, those revenues will flow to benefit the few, and the many will suffer.
Sir, on that note, my final question, do you think that this administration has a policy or policies for solving the problems that they would have created for public sector workers and their families?
No, I don't think the welfare of public sector workers is a priority. Let us look at what is happening with the migrant issue.
Yeah.
This is a regional issue. People are speaking about housing for them. People are speaking about various benefits for them. But the people in Guyana who are working, who are being sent home, who are being dismissed, are not even being considered for the benefits which are to be extended to these so-called remigrants. Many of the remigrants, particularly those coming back from Venezuela, you know, some of them don't even have Guyanese or recognizably Guyanese names because they were born of maybe of Guyanese parents. These are what we might call persons of Guyanese origin. I suppose we'll get a new administrative category, POGOs, persons of Guyanese origin. But I have no objection to treating them, you know, as genuine remigrants. But persons who have been dismissed and persons who are in Guyana need to get some of those benefits, housing and registration and birth certificates. You know, I have not seen any minister of the government or government officials speaking to the dismissed public sector workers the way that they've been speaking to these so-called remigrants. You're setting up units, you're setting up, you know, departments, you're creating a new regime for the remigrants, things which local dismissed workers have not had access to. Again, something is happening in this country, and I call it the deep state, because this is not part of announced policy. This is a secret policy. This is a policy which will be manifest in months to come. And many Guyanese will see the PPP for what it is. It is a party that is actually derailing normal public administration in Guyana and installing instead a corrupted form of administration. That's what you're going to see. That's what the deep state is up to.
Well, sir, it's always a pleasure talking to you about national issues because you provide so much insight. So thank you once again for being with us here. You're going to join me back next week. We're going to be discussing another topic.
So
thank you.
This is our last meeting for May. I think
For
next
May.
week will be
in another new month already. So thank you very much once again, sir. And to you, our viewers, we say thank you very much for joining us. On behalf of all of us here at Public Interest, we do encourage you to please follow all COVID-19 guidelines. I'm Gabriela Patram. Goodbye.